efforts led by propagandists at the moment seek only to demonize one nation in the world, and that nation is Israel. It's a huge irony that Israel is and remains the country in the Middle East, which is a country that I would submit most of you and I would want to live in that region. The only one that only one which secures genuine freedom of worship. When I was there last few months ago, I say we've had doing propaganda, in fact. When I was last there a few months ago, I wanted to visit again the Mosque of Al-Aqsa. I've been trying for some time to visit it on a visit to Israel. I can't go because Israeli troops won't allow in non-Muslims to visit at the request of Muslims who don't want non-Muslims in a Muslim site. I would submit there's almost no other country in the world whose troops stop atheists getting into a religious site at the request of a religion which many people in this hall and others will think Israel is somehow opposed to. Israel defends the religious rights of its people in a way which none of its neighbours do. It defends the rights of other minorities. It's the only country, I can tell you, in the region which you'd want to be in if you were gay. It's the only country in the region which is a safe, genuine democracy. There are attempts to have others elsewhere. Somebody said on the other side earlier about the intentional killings that go on. Now look, I would just ask you, in as fair a way as possible, to consider the following. Do you think that when Israel tries to defend itself, as any country coming under routine rocket barrage would, as Israel tries to defend herself, if you look at the military hardware that Israel uses, the military technology it uses, the expense of its own troops and civilians that it is willing to go through, does it seek to kill as many people as possible, or as few? I can tell you there isn't anyone who isn't a propagandist who wouldn't agree that the military technology that Israel uses, it tries desperately on every occasion to minimize any casualties. The perfect bomb for Israel is, as it always has been, a bomb which takes out the terrorists that it seeks to take out. The perfect bomb of Israel's enemies is a very different thing. It seeks to maximize casualties, as the bomber did earlier today in Jerusalem. It seeks to kill as many people as possible, maim as many people as possible. The difference between these two things cannot be ignored. It is the difference between trying to limit human suffering and trying to maximize it. And if on a campus like this, this can't be said without jeering and heckling, then I think we have a problem. I want to finish by saying one other thing. There is a serious problem in campuses and in this country with the rhetoric, among others which you've heard already tonight from the other side, professional whippers up of hatred against the state. I think that hatred will lead to genocide. Israel is a country that has been built in the wake of genocide, and forgive me for mentioning the fact, but it is very sensitive to people calling for its annihilation. It sees that from the government of Iran, not just the president and the supreme leader, but from almost every neighbouring state. It is not nothing when your neighbours say that they want to annihilate you. You have to take it seriously, and I submit Israel has the right to do so. Thank you.
I would like to thank Mr. Murray for his speech and call upon Mr. Samet Habib to make his speech, please. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for inviting me here today, and I'm very happy to be amongst you. I really don't know from where to start. We got two masters in the propaganda, and just Mr. Douglas said that he was in Israel. And I wonder on what mission he was in Israel. Was he in the mission part of the Israeli Foreign Affairs Ministry that recently has hired some companies in Europe? And it was just in the Yidu'at Ahronet less than 2 months ago, in which they are paying more than $3 million yearly to improve the image of Israel across Europe because of these problems that Israel's image has been in for the last 2 or 3 years and even more. to get closer to the topic, and before I answer it, I quickly would like to respond on the two, let's say, speakers and what they said. And the first thing is Itamar family. If it's true what you said, would Israel show us those who made it? Because whenever there is a military operation done by the Palestinians against the Israelis, we will see the family of that person, and he quickly will see his house quickly demolished. We didn't see anything. Israel said only Palestinians did it. And the whole world believed in what Israel said. But can you give us the name? Can you give us the village of that person? Why Israel did not demolish the house? In every event, such thing in the past, Israel is used to quickly demolish the house. But why in this event we didn't see? And about yesterday, I don't want to really furthermore, but I will quickly show you the photos if you're asking about photos of the children. I'm not here for propaganda, but I feel I will have to show you these photos of what happened yesterday. 9 people were killed, and he's speaking about the operation today in which some few people were injured. There is no comparison between what is happening in Palestine and what is happening in Israel. There is one party that's the occupier. There is one party that's killing the people. There is one party that's using the American F-16, the jets, and all kind of weapons against those people living in Gaza. Imagine how you're living in Gaza when you are being bombarded. Personally, I was there. I don't want to speak much about my own experience, but I could easily tell you we were about to be annihilated in the Gaza Strip. Whenever you just walk in the Gaza Strip, you would be exposed to death. And it's a miracle that if you will stay alive. And this happened to many of my friends who were killed. Are we too critical of Israel? I don't think we criticize Israel. There is a legacy that the Jews have been encountering the Holocaust in Europe. So every one of us, and even myself, whenever I write an article, there's something inside me that gives me a boundaries. Okay. Oh, I should not touch on this point. I should not touch on this point. Oh, I'll be accused of anti-Semitism. Oh, I'll be accused of being anti-Israel. I guess every one of us is scared in Europe, not all of us, few of us, to write or to say some of these things against Israel. If you watch the media and what the media are saying these days, you will come to realize that Israel is not being criticized. Just have a look in the BBC. Just have a look in the BBC and see how the BBC is covering the conflict there. Have a look on the Guardian, the Telegraph, and other newspapers, and you will see, and you will have a better look on how the conflict is being covered. Like what happened on the event of Gaza yesterday. All the media outlets, and I opened the BBC today, and I've seen the chronological order of what happened. Okay, on Monday, the Israelis started to shell and bomb Gaza, but the BBC ran the story the other day, directly after Monday, saying, "Oh, Israelis are retaliating and Israelis are bombing back because they were bombed." This is an utter lie. That's what we see in the media. And what we see in the media is dehumanizing for the Palestinians. The Palestinians are being portrayed in the media as the killers, are the murderers. But we are not. We are the people that encountering the Israeli killings on a daily basis. We are the people that are encountering this suffering in the West Bank. And I wonder how Mr. Douglas went to Jerusalem. How many checkpoints you crossed? Could you tell us, please?
Can I answer that?
How many checkpoints? How many checkpoints you crossed? I'm sure you've been fly directly into Ben Gurion Airport, and directly the Israeli Foreign Affairs Ministry as part of their propaganda machine took you quickly to Jerusalem. Thanks a lot.
I'd like to thank you for your speech, and I'd like to remind all the speakers that they will get an opportunity to react to what you have said in the discussion topics that are about to take place, and also when answering questions. I'd like to pass over now to Monica, who's going to lead the discussion sessions. Monica.
Good evening, everyone. Well, first of all, it's really great to see so many of you here today. And, well, thank you so much for your opening remarks to our speakers. Today, as you already heard about the format, we're going to discuss 3 discussion topics. And after each one of them, you will have a chance to ask a question specifically about the topic. And towards the end of the debate, we will accept any of your questions you may have and direct to any speakers. So please keep that in mind. And the first discussion topic that we would like to start off would be, well, as Mr. Habib already mentioned in his speech and touched upon, would be the role of media. And the question that I'm sure everyone is interested in is Israel misrepresented in the news and media? And is it treated with double standards? Is that the case? And if so, what are those double standards? I would like to direct this question to Mr. Westrop. Please respond to this.
Okay, I'll give 2 examples of why I believe there is an inherent bias in the Western media against the state of Israel. The first would be the panic and fury found throughout newspapers across the political spectrum here in the Western media against Israel during, I'll give the example of the flotilla incident. Only a few weeks beforehand, German fighter planes killed 70 Afghan civilians in Afghanistan. Not a word in the Western media, not a word. I believe there was a news in brief of one of the broadsheets, but apart from that, not a word. Now, if a confrontation between activists wielding clubs and Israeli soldiers with paintball guns can occupy the entire world, call it a security council to bear, and yet the bombing, the murder of so many Afghan civilians doesn't, I believe that is an example of an indisputable bias within the Western media. The other example is the incident of forged passports during the Dubai assassination of the Hamas terrorist. Fury in the British media, especially from The Guardian, page after page devotes to it. Commenters Free was bursting at the seams with furious articles about the use of British forged passports. Since then, the Russians, of course, the Russian spy ring unearthed in America was discovered to have owned several forged British passports. And of course, British SAS forces last week in Libya were using passports forged from other countries as well. Now, not a word, nothing in the media at all. How can you possibly explain this discrepancy?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Hibby, what would be your response to this?
Really quickly, if we touch upon the issue of the passports and what happened, Mr. Sam forgot to say that those Israelis, they have really got into a country which is out of their borders, and they have committed a massacre against someone, whatever who's that person. Quickly to jump on the issue whether Israel is misrepresented in the media, I have a really very nice lines I got it from an American study. It says that 3 academics from major American universities were engaged by the Jewish Federation of Metropolitan Chicago to examine coverage of Israel-Palestine in the Chicago Tribune, New York Times, and Washington Post. Contrary to the expectations of the Federation, the study found a tendency among all the 3 papers to use language aligned with an Israeli perspective on the evidence. When we are speaking about Associated Press, AP, AFP, the major and the very important media outlet, we will certainly see a very obvious bias. Okay, there has to be a kind of coverage, okay, about what is happening in Palestine. When we see those media outlets, the big media agencies and sources, they will cover it, but we have to look at the terminology. What kind of terminology is used? It's always beside the Israelis. It's always.
Thank you. Mr. Douglas Murray, what will be your answer?
Thank you. If I just firstly just pick up on the point that was raised by the gentleman on the side, man on the side. I think you would have to look quite hard to find another debate. I think it rather proves the point I was making in my opening comments. You have to go quite hard to find debate on international affairs where one of the people who was speaking to an audience of academics thought that it was a good idea to claim that his opponents were in the pay of a foreign government. But that was the immediate instinct of my opponent. That was the immediate instinct of my opponent here tonight, because I mentioned I'd been in Israel. Well, I just got back from Morocco yesterday morning. Perhaps I should have mentioned that and sent him into a real conspiracy tailspin. He didn't allege if I had talked about my travels in Iraq or Jordan or Lebanon or the West Bank or anywhere else. He wouldn't have alleged that I wouldn't have thought that I'm in the pay of, say, the PA or Jordanian government or the Iraqi government or anyone else. No. But that's because you see there the fetid conspiracy mindset at work. And this is important. He referred to the fact, he said it's very difficult to say certain things about Israel. It's very difficult to say certain things about all of this. I think it's rather difficult for you. I think you have to be careful about what you say, as you showed when you referred to the murder of that family as a military operation. To get to the